fashion, and the longing will dull to a faint twinge, but it will remain with us. In her final few months, I learned a lot more about my mom from spending a few days a week caring for her. I learned that we had a lot more in common than I had ever previously thought. She was like me, a staunch Democrat. We both liked Bloody Marys. We had a secret love of show tunes, and we were both voracious readers. She told me stories of her childhood, of Halloween nights in St. Louis with the kids on the block, of aiming their pea shooters at the windows of the homes, not giving out treats, and breaking them, kicking over trash cans and then running away. We were a bunch of hooligans, she told me with a grin, which I found hard to believe, being that she was my mother. When I asked about what it was like growing up in the Depression, she said they never really had a very hard time of it, as her dad always had a job, and her mom did too for a while. She talked of how women had to lie about not being married if they wanted to work. She talked of summers in a cabin, snowy winters in the city, and a whole host of experiences that gave me a glimpse of her as a person. I never fully appreciated my mother until I found myself in a strange hospital in a different country, awaiting the birth of my firstborn, resisting the urge to tell the nurse when she asked how I was doing that all I really wanted was my mommy. As my children grew, I found myself saying the same things to them that my mother used to say to me. Things like her favorite, when the noise level in the house exceeded the usual deafening roar, empty barrels make the most noise. Imagine the noise level in a house full of 11 children, 7 of them rambunctious boys, all determined to be louder than the other. She used to tell us to fight our own battles, and she only intervened if it got bloody. As the years passed, I marveled at how much I was like my mother, in spite of my very determined assertion as a teenager that I would be different. In the end, I realized that I had essentially become my mother. At the age of 23, Mom threw all caution to the wind and married a handsome, struggling doctor from the Philippines. A few years later, she traveled to the other end of the world with him and raised 11 children. The fairy tale courtship, wedding, and marriage that read like a paperback romance hit a reality that was more sobering. Mom struggled with being in a foreign country with little knowledge of the language, dealing with giant-sized insects, suffocating heat, and spectacularly bad weather. A host of cultural differences, along with in-laws that were unyielding in their determination that she adapt to them. In the ensuing years, Mom weathered it all, sometimes with more grace than other times, but through the numerous typhoons, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and floods, she battled on. Through the hard times as well as the good, the Americana, as she came to be known, stuck to her guns, held her head high, and did what she thought was best for her ever-growing brood of children. We witnessed epic battles, guerrilla tactics, as well as gracious surrender. It was not a peaceful, uneventful childhood. It was the clash of two cultures and personalities that were polar opposites, and it was anything but boring. But she taught us all to be proud of our mixed heritage. She showed us the dignity of hard work. She showed us what equality truly meant. She treated the help the same way she treated everyone else, to the dismay of some of my dad's family. Mom instilled in us a sense of determination and the idea that a better life awaited for us in the big wide world. She came to love her mother-in-law as my Lola folded Mom into her bosom as a daughter, and she was confronted with my mom's loss of her own mother. "You are my daughter now," she told my mom. They shared a bond forged by grief, as Lola lost her own mother too at an early age, and they were united by their love for my father. I remember times filled with unadulterated joy, moments tinged with sadness and regret. I remember Mom crying whenever she heard the song "I'll Be Home for Christmas" on the radio during the holidays, and me looking up at her wondering how such a strong, fearless person could be brought to tears by a tune. I am grateful that she gave us a childhood filled with the joy of running around free on hot summer days, of prancing in the rain when the skies unleashed their torrents, and huddling with us when the thunderstorms rolled through. We were unencumbered by nannies, by middle-class conventions of the time, and by class distinctions. So through 30-odd years of scraped knees, bad dreams, broken hearts, bruised egos, and an assortment of other emergencies, Mom saw it through to the inevitable bittersweet parting of maturity and adulthood. I realized too late how much I owe my mother, and how I desperately wish, as I'm sure we all do, that I'd spent more time with her. A lot has been said of the romance of my parents' marriage, of the dashing young doctor and his beautiful wife, but not enough has been said of the true hero of the story. Mom's sacrifice of saying goodbye to everyone she loved and not seeing them again for 30-odd years, of the sheer guts it took to stay and raise all of her children, to suffer the numerous daily indignities of having to stretch resources to put up with the relentless slides of daily life in a country not her own. In the end, she seemed more Filipino than me, and I realized with a shock that she spent more time in the Philippines than any of her children. My mother was the strongest, bravest woman I know. So here we all are, 11 siblings, our spouses, our children, and our children's children, generations brought together to honor the end of an era by an event that we all knew was inevitable, but had worked so desperately to delay. A father occupies our consciousness as a giant striding across the landscape of our lives. A mother takes root in our hearts and remains with us forever. We love you, Mom, and even though we are left breathless by the cruel abruptness of your departure, you live on in each of us, in each and every one of us. You and Dad endure.